If ever you doubted that miracles do exist, I refer you to Dave. Lord Dave, as he should now be known, scored a vital goal in Mansfield Town's bid to stay in League One, as the Stags overcame a poor Barnsley side to run out 2-1 winners at One Call Stadium last weekend. Now, with a mini break ahead of them, is Dave's goal, aka the DAVEiour, saviour, see what I did there, going to be the turning point in our campaign with 9 games to go? As always, come and have your say on your team in the live feed comments. Have the Stags turned the corner? Are we going to achieve survival after all? This is the place to talk all about it. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the DAVEiour. Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Mansfield Matters Podcast, the show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield always matters. Thanks so much for joining us on this Tuesday evening. A slight change in day because, of course, there's no game at the weekend and no game midweek. So we thought we'd get it out of the way early and we can all put our feet up and have a nice game of dominoes on Saturday afternoon rather than watch Mansfield inevitably turn a corner again. But that is exactly what we did on Saturday afternoon. And joining me to talk all about that, well, let's say hello and good evening to two wise men and somebody else. The first wise man, his name is Alan Wilson. Good evening, Alan Wilson.
Good evening, Craig. Good evening, everybody.
The second wise man, yeah, it's Clive. Good evening, Clive.
I'm not sure about wise, but good evening, everybody.
And the unwise man is Cam Felton. Good evening, Cam.
Do you even get an answer for that?
I mean, unwise because you've been saying all day, I've been feeling under the weather, I've had a bit of a sore throat, I couldn't speak, and yet here you are on a 90-minute live broadcast. Like I say, unwise.
I'm just not going to talk much.
Good.
I mean, I think our viewership has just got up and you've delighted a lot of our viewers in doing that. But welcome to the show and thank you for joining, even though you are at death's door, which I'm going to be honest, you absolutely look like you are. So that is a compliment. That was a compliment. You do look like you're ill, so I will give you that. Alan, let's start with you. You are always the voice of positivity. All throughout this negative run, you've been saying, it'll happen, it'll happen, it'll happen. And you could sense in your voice when Dave hit the back of the net, even though you didn't announce him as Dave because, you know, we'll get it into you one of these days, you could sense the relief. And I think that relief was felt by everybody in One Call Stadium of a home persuasion, wasn't it, on Saturday?
Oh, quality. I think that's, even when they got promoted, I think that's just as loud at the end of the final, you know, when that goal went in, that I've heard for a long, long time, Craig. It was just quality. Good finish. Couldn't have happened to a nicer chap. Had a cracking game. What more can you say?
It was an absolute moment, Clive. We talk about moments this season being, you know, really, really important. We've had so many pinpoint moments of the campaign, changing to a 5 at the back when we were leaking goals early doors, changing to a back 4 to accommodate when we were sort of losing games, and little its and bits. And I think that moment when Dave stuck the ball in the onion bag late on to take the roof off One Call Stadium was as important as this season gets for us.
Yeah, the magic ingredient. And I don't think there's much magic about it, but the difference between the two recent games, Exeter and on Saturday, is that on Saturday we played with conviction and commitment to a man, whereas that was, to most people's eye, missing at Exeter.
It was dreadful at Exeter, and we were saying last week, Cam, about Andy Garner's comments sort of maybe being a little bit of a catalyst to turn things around. Well, I definitely think that had a little bit of effect because all of the things which Andy Garner listed that were absent on Tuesday at Exeter a week ago were present on Saturday. Heart, desire, and actually turning up to play football.
The hunger and the fight that the players had was evident from minute one. And I think a number of things played into that. Obviously, it's a team that we'd already beat this season, so you think like, right, we know we've already beaten them once. Can we go and do it again? So I think that's a bit of a motivator. Other aspects, obviously, being at home, not wanting to lose home games is very much something no team wants to do. And then you look at two players on the opposition that one left in not so great circumstances, very much just frozen out the squad. Clough didn't favour him. How wrong he was. And then Mr. Keeler Dunn, who tried to leave on good circumstances and then just ended up being messy on deadline day. And it just felt that everything came to a boiling point on Saturday. I think if we lost on Saturday, I think we'd be in a very different situation right now. I think fans, I don't think managerially, I don't think things would have changed, not in the short term. But it very much put, I'm not saying that there's no pressure in the next 9 games or whatever it is, but it certainly helps alleviate a little bit of that pressure, because we know that we're not having to try and turn that. We're not trying to end that winless run. We've done that. Now we can look to build on it.
I think, Alan, saying a little pressure is probably a little bit of an understatement, because I think there was mass pressure building on Nigel Clough's shoulders. And I think this victory has definitely fallen at the right time. Imagine now going into the last 9 games of the season with essentially a 2-week break, still having not won. But we have won. We've won at home. We've sort of reignited the fans. The Radfords were present to see it as well, which, social media talk can really fuel that a little bit. But I think it has alleviated not just a little bit of a pressure, a lot of pressure on the entire dressing room.
Yeah, because like you alluded to, Craig, I think it was last week, if we did lose against Barnsley, and we didn't know then that we were going to be having a 2-week break. And it's a long while in football, isn't it? 2 weeks, Now, looking on the bright side, we've got the injuries possibly coming back. We could have a stronger team, a stronger bench. That's just one positive. We've got the monkey offers back. And, everybody seems to be quite buoyant again. But I still allude back to what I've said most of the season, that early goal. When Mansfield score an early goal, it just seems to lift the team. I know that's probably a daft thing to say, it's bound to lift the team, but every time we get an early goal, because what happens then, they've got to come out, otherwise they're going to lose 1-0. And it's same as if we do it the other way. If we go down 1-0, we have to change. And I just think it helps Mansfield no end, but they were certainly up for it on Saturday, right from the first minute, right from the first whistle. And it was nice to see, it really was.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like what Alan says there, Clive, that importance of Caelan Vickers' goal. We had opportunities before that, but again, it didn't quite seem like it was going to drop, and it felt like it was going to be another one of those afternoons. But for once, we kept at it, we stuck at it, we dug our heels in, and we got our just rewards.
Yeah, and I think we've seen games where we've put plenty of goal-bound effort in and nothing's come off, and we've seen plenty of crosses when there's been nobody on the end of it. And we've seen situations where 50-50 balls never, ever fall in favour of Mansfield Town. We had a little bit of luck on Saturday for once. We had a bit of the rub of the green. I thought the referee was reasonably fair, and I thought the circumstances that resulted in the goals were well earned. Now, Vickers was due a bit of a reward for his efforts, and we know Dave is Dave, and I think I go back to what I said earlier. The difference is that commitment. And that's also the difference between how we recover from conceding a goal. Because once they scored, I thought, oh, here we go. But actually, we turned it up a notch. And we changed our game slightly. Clough brought some decent substitutes on at the right time. I confidently expected us to lose against Barnsley, as my prediction verifies. And I'm delighted to be wrong. Absolutely delighted to be wrong. But I couldn't see, based on what we saw at Exeter, how we were going to get anything from the game.
Clive, I've just got a little bit of admin to do, I'm afraid. Yellow card. Yellow card. Not
Can
even
I
going
just
for a verbal
say,
warning, I'm going
Craig, as
straight with the
well,
yellow.
wasn't it nice to see Lewis Reed actually sliding in and, making some really important tackles and starting to spray the ball about again like we know he can?
Do you know, for a minute there, Cam, I had a split thought in my head that Alan was going to say, do you know, wasn't it nice to see Lewis Reed turn up? I thought he was going to go proper rogue on us.
No, don't
You're wrong.
I think what Alan's saying is, I hope he's saying, is that the type of Reed that played on Saturday was different to what we've seen in recent games. He's always seemed
Correct.
frightened to put his foot in, and therefore a little bit undercommitted. No evidence of that at all on Saturday. So whether he's responded like I think the players did to a roasting, I don't know. But that lad has to be instrumental in everything we do in midfield, and he was.
And I'm
Yeah,
going to just pitch in with something, and Alan can back me up on this because I said this on Saturday to him in person, face to face. So there's proof. I actually thought Hiram Boateng had a very good game on Saturday.
Well, you actually said to him, to his face, Hiram, I thought you had a good game.
Not to him. I said to Alan first half that Hiram's had a really good game today because it's that midfield was far too passive in that last 14 odd games. And like you said, Lewis Reed, when he turns up, when we get that Lewis Reed, unplayable.
Now, I don't know. I saw some CCTV after the game, Al. I don't know about you, of the players coming out of the main entrance, and what looked like Lewis Reed came out, and then he, you know, like when on Scooby Doo where they lift the face off and it's somebody else entirely underneath.
Where are you going with this?
It was like Lewis Reed had become prime Jamie Maguire.
It certainly was a captain's performance. I'll give him that.
Can I just compliment Craig? I mean, there is evidence of preparatory work for this podcast.
Kind of. I sort of downloaded the image whilst you were talking and just uploaded it. So I'll take the credit, but also, and also, Clive, I'm not rescinding the yellow card. You can blow smoke wherever you want, but I'm not rescinding the yellow card at all. Total yellow card offence. As always, if you want to have your say on your team, please do feel free to get involved in the comments. Now, a few of you have done so already. Keep the comments coming in. Let's turn it back on to topic, Alan. Like you were saying, it did feel a little bit like Lewis Reed had a sort of a Jamie Maguire-esque makeover because he became a tough tackling midfielder, box to box. He became what Mansfield had been lacking. I'm going to call it out. I think all season, an actual proper bona fide guts, blood and thunder, piss and vinegar captain.
I say, I just thought it's right from minute one. Everybody were in the same mind, everybody were singing off the same hymn sheet. They just went forward, and when it wasn't possible, to go forward, they were passing it round, nicely. And there were more passing football that like we used to seeing from Mansfield. And, it was pleasurable. It really was.
Cam, have you transferred your germs digitally to Alan? He was fine before we started. Now he's coughing like a smoker of a million a day. Shocking behaviour.
I can mute my...
Oh, dear.
But
shocking behaviour.
shocking.
Clive's angling for that second yellow, isn't he? He's trying everything, bless him.
He's going for red.
He is. I've not got a red card one loaded up yet.
Can I just say, while you lot have been chatting away, to prove I can do more than one task at once, I've ordered online my fish and chip supper.
Jolly good.
And I've ordered haddock, chips, mushy peas, and piss and vinegar.
I think that's a very good order, Clive. I'm not going to lie. Keep your comments coming in. Have your say on your team. Mark says, has Bowery taken Keeler Dunn out of his pocket now? We need to give him a little bit of credit. Jordan Bowery did Mark Keeler Dunn very well. And to be fair, again, different position for Jordan Bowery again on Saturday. It may have escaped a few people's notice, but we chucked out the back four and went back to the back five.
Yeah. and then obviously losing Bailey at half time, then to change to a different system for the next 45. I think it just shows his versatility, and it's something that we've always credited him with. And it's very, I think it does help a lot when you are defending against a player that you know inside and out near enough. You know his strengths, you know his weaknesses. You've spent the last year and a half with him, training with him nearly every day. So I'm not surprised that somebody pocketed him. I just didn't think it'd be Jordan.
Always have faith in Jordan Bowery, rule number one. Liam,
Craig, on the subject of Jordan Bowery, did we mention this last podcast that Jordan Bowery is the son of Bert Bowery?
We've mentioned this on numerous
And
podcasts.
Bert
Bowery, Port
was
Butchers.
the first player recruited by Clough Senior when at Derby County.
Forest.
No, Derby County.
Well, it was Forest, wasn't it?
No, it was before Forest.
I think it was Forest. I'll challenge you on it. But anyway, where was I going? I can't remember where I was going. Don't make me get the red card out. You have thrown me. I'm going to do research.
Right.
Alan, do some talking. I'm doing some research.
Well, I was also lucky enough to do the interviews on Saturday. And when I interviewed Dave after the match, I said to him as we were walking up the steps, because I just said, we've got a few, we had to go into the Kevin Bird suite first, and then we go into the 1861. We do one either side. And I asked him, I said, just a few questions. I called him Deji, obviously, didn't call him Dave when I was talking.
Yellow card.
But he said that, I can't believe it. He said, you should have had a hat trick. He says, well, on the second one that I missed, not the header, not the shot that went by, the header that went over the bar or to the side. He says, I was really sweating. He says, because I looked at Nigel and he says, I thought Gaffer were going to kill me.
Can you see what's on my screen? Can anyone see what's on my screen? Has this
Black
not worked?
It's a black screen.
Well, that's
it's just
very
black.
annoying. I'm going to stop that. Stop screen share. That's very annoying. Where do we go?
It is Nottingham Forest, just saying.
Yes, I know. I was proving the point to. I was trying to prove the point to Clive, but where's it gone? What's going on here? You've messed all my system up. I don't know. Yes, I was going to screenshot it, but I couldn't be bothered. And then I tried to screen share it, and it didn't work. But yes, it was. It was.
I stand corrected, gentlemen.
I won't get the second yellow card out, 'cause I'm yet to get that picture. But I don't quite think that's a yellow card offence. But depends who's doing it. Let's go back to the game, shall we? Clive, Lee in the comments says it was crucial that Pim made those saves early on and before we scored the first.
Yeah.
With winning a game 2-1 and scoring late on in that game, Clive, it's his influence can be quite overlooked. He came back in after a spell on the sidelines, injured, and performed superbly well.
He certainly performed better than he did the last time he played. And those early saves were absolutely vital. Having said that, I think he would be disappointed by their goal, because to be beaten at your near post like that, most keepers would find that difficult to justify. We got away with it, and he performed better than he had been doing. And actually, he broke free of that sellotape that holds him on his goal line for a bit this time. And I think that's the fundamental criticism I have of the bloke. He's a good shot stopper, but he doesn't control his box. He doesn't have that dominance. And I thought he was a little bit better than that this time. So credit where it's due. Not man of the match, but an improvement.
Do you think, Alan, that Pim had a point to prove?
Possibly. I mean, see, we don't really know how. We've been told about, what injury he had and whatever. And when the other keeper came in, young Flinders, he did perfect. But, he came back in, and like we said, the first two saves he did were really crucial. Because if we had gone 2-0 down, that could have been curtains. And it might have been hard to come back from that. So fair play to him, Let's hope he got rid of the injury now. And, they're both fighting for that number one.
Sorry, Alan, do you think it was not so much an injury as a reason not to play him? And it's been a good management, because I think he needed a break from it, because he'd not been playing well. He conceded some goals he shouldn't have done. And he was getting a bit of pressure from the crowd. Do you think Clough allowed him to have
It could have been.
those injuries to give him a bit of a break?
I know he did say it in one point of his interview. Nigel said that, rest would do him good. He did. He did say that, as well as the injury, because we didn't know he'd got the injury at the time, did we? Went his toe or
Yeah, but then
something.
the reason he
Got a
didn't play
bad
for
toe.
2 games was his ribs.
And then it was the
hurt his
ribs.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting one because
Whichever way, it worked.
it's an interesting one because he did I think he had struggled for a while, and I think like we said on the podcast at the time, when you are struggling, sometimes a rest is very much needed, or a change is as good as a rest as well. And I think that break came at the right time. We needed to try and mix something up as a team. I felt a little bit sorry for Flinders in that run, Cam, as well, because he was still conceding goals, and he got a little bit of a blame for the one at Exeter, the first one at Exeter, where he pushed it out into the path of their player. He came out for the ball, which is more than what Pim was doing in previous games, but that's another argument for another day. And he probably did deserve a clean sheet in that little bit of a run, but it just re-emphasises Clough's stance on the whole Pim's number 1, Flinders is number 2 situation. But Clive also has a point that it almost acted a little bit like a circuit breaker for everyone involved.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, yes, because Pim quite clearly is Clough's number 1, and that's been evident since the day he came in. Same as Nathan Bishop being number 1 goalie with Marek Steck as well. It was quite evident that Stecky was never first choice, and Clough very much lived with balancing the books between Steck and Aidan Stone in the past, and but it was quite evident as soon as Clough had got his authority on the team, he's very much made it clear that he's got his favourites. Players that are fit do start. Aikens always starts. Bowery, wherever that is, started. Even Macca to an extent, I'd say. He's started nearly every game, which is probably in detriment to him, why he's injured all the time, or he used to be injured all the time. But yeah, it is a bit of a circuit breaker, because I do feel sorry for Flinders, because he did deserve clean sheets. But same again, I think it showed that the issues we were having at the back weren't necessarily down to the goalkeeper. It was down to the players in front of him. And I think it was very much of a wake-up call. And we go back to the comments that Andy Gardner made after the game, and it feels like that really shook the dressing room and just allowed everybody to have that bit of a circuit break and just sort of like reset, go again. We've got, for the players that are not injured, it was a full-strength squad on Saturday. It was evident that we'd actually worked on a training ground together. We actually looked like we'd played together. We were able to put more than a couple of passes together, and a couple of moves actually paid off. Hence, Mr. Vickers got his goal. It was a very well-worked goal. And that's something that we've lacked over the last few months. And it's clear that that confidence in the back and the goalkeeper was very much there as well. We didn't panic on the ball other than Jordan in injury time.
That wasn't panic. Behave yourself. That was Jordan. No. That was Jordan Bowery doing Jordan Bowery things.
I was sat with the injured players top at Corey Lane end, and even their hearts were in their mouths. They were like, "Come on, John, just get rid of it."
It was just Jordan Bowery just showboating. That's all it was. It's difficult to try and clear a ball and sort of swivel on the spot when you've got Keeler Dunn basically up your backside, because he's that deep in his pocket. So it was difficult. Andy says in the comments, at the end of the season, we will look back at Saturday's result and only then appreciate its importance. Pim's toe and rib injury, a Clough masterclass in man management. Let's talk about the importance of Saturday, though, and as a more general, though, Alan, and that is, not only did it give us a lift, but you could see what it meant to the players as well. Any sort of rumours that they'd lost, that they didn't care, or that they were out of things, I think it really did it did sort of show that they definitely did care and
Yeah.
have the hearts on the line.
I would agree. And I think it might, after Andy was saying about masterclass, who knows about the masterclass, with Nigel letting Andy Garner come out, because he's done that before. And we've, the oh my God, he's done it before and we've laughed and whatever. And I think he spoke a lot of truth, didn't he? He was honest, he was open. And I think it worked. And it certainly worked on Saturday, because, you could see right from the word go. That was it. Wow. They were brilliant.
Yeah, certainly were.
And that's what we've been missing.
Keep your comments coming in. Have your say on your team in the live feed comments if you wish to do so. Paul says Saturday's performance saw the reignition of enthusiasm and passion to our I want to play guitar, which has been missing for quite some time. Yeah, it certainly has. I think, let's talk a little bit
I
about...
don't understand that.
What, about bringing rhythm to the guitar?
Yeah.
It's a strange euphemism, but, we've heard worse on this show, haven't we?
I'm not very bright.
But, I think it's also important, Clive, to touch upon how poor Barnsley were. It was a very, very poor advert for League One football, but you could tell they were absolutely down in the dumps. And, for once, we took advantage.
Yeah, they were. I mean, they're better than that. They've got to be, because of where they are in the league. But they're on a bad run. I mean, we know all about bad runs, don't we? But they're on one as well. And I think the other thing is they've now had 5 keepers this season. They've had some really bad luck with their keepers. The lad who started the game was not their first choice keeper. It was their number 2, because the primary one's injured. And then he did the splits when Vickers scored his goal and did his hamstring.
Yeah.
So he had to come off. And it was a youth team keeper that then played the rest of the game. I mean, he didn't look like a youth because he was about 12 foot tall. But, they're not having it. They've been getting the sort of bad luck that we know all about.
Yeah, they've. I think it was his league debut, wasn't it? So it was a bit of a baptism of fire to come in for the lad. But maybe that's it. Caelan Vickers injures goalkeepers. Pass it on. Was a great strike, Alan, there, wasn't it? And a lovely little move as well, which we took full advantage of.
Yeah. And Macca introduced to it as well again. I think he's been the last six matches or so. He's coming back. I think I said 2-3 weeks ago on the podcast. He's coming back like the old Macca. He looks a lot fitter. His surging runs are something to be proud of, and it's nice to see him back.
The only negative I have from the game on Saturday, and it's a very nitpicky negative, and that was second half, Cameron, having to move Will Evans across to left side midfield or left wing back. It was more of an advanced left wing back for me than actual left wing back. It left us a little bit of exposed, but also it completely took him out of the game. I felt first half he was charging things down. His movement was quite good. He was looking sharp. He was looking instinctive. And then we just whacked him out to the left-hand side and we just lost a whole load of our game. And it took Jordan Rhodes a long time to sort of get himself embedded in the game. And even when he did, Will Evans he just didn't look as influential as he was in the first 45.
Yeah, and then you look at the way that Barnsley scored their goal. If the system was to sort of like pack out that midfield, well, he's not backtracked far enough because their player that scores just wide open. It's an average goal, bit of bad defending. It is what it is. But it did look dangerous. I think we did have a little bit of bad luck in the sense that we had a lot of chances, but same again, you thought it was just going to be one of those games where the ball just did not drop. Obviously, the couple of chances before Caelan scored, the numerous chances that Jordan Rhodes had, Keanu Bacchus had a really good game, I thought, on Saturday. He was unlucky. Ball just wouldn't settle. I mean, the one that he blazed into the back into Rhodes' head, different, but all in all, I think we were very unlucky in front of goal. The ball just didn't want to settle, or it'd bounce off defender first, or it just spin away from us. But yeah, it very much did make him a little bit ineffective. I think if we'd have stayed, as obviously we went as a forward 3, but if we kept him pushed further forward, I think it'd have been better. But I think it was just more of a case of we needed a left-footed player to be out there.
Yeah.
And I think it was. You look at the way that the game was going; it wasn't the sort of game to chuck Quinny in.
No, and I don't think it was the right time either to put Bowery across there, because I thought Bowery was coping really well with DKD, and bringing somebody else on into that centre back role of Flint or Kilgore or whatever probably wouldn't have been the right move for the flow of the game. So Clough had to do what Clough had to do. Let's take a little look at the league table then and where that leaves us with 9 games to go. Still 15th in the table. It's still kind of tight down there. Obviously, one game taking place tonight, and that's Rotherham against Wickham, which is currently 0-0 in that one. So at the moment, as it stands, Rotherham would be one place above us in 14th on 46 points on the same amount of games played. We're on 44 points in 15 with a -8 goal difference. Below us in 16th, Exeter on -11, 44 points. Wigan in 17th, poor season for them, -3 with 43 points. Peterborough in 18th at 42 points, also on 42 points, but a much worse goal difference in 19th. -17 their goal difference is Northampton, and then Bristol Rovers just above the drop zone in 20th on 42 points. And that, for me, Alan, we were talking about the importance of last Saturday's games in terms of being do or die for confidence. Well, I think it's not necessarily do or die when we kick off again a week on Saturday against Bristol Rovers, but it's a huge, huge game in the season. And for me, if we can come back from Bristol with all 3 points, that is not just one small step for Mansfield Kind. It's a giant leap for Mansfield Kind in terms of getting over that line.
I would definitely agree with you as well, Craig. And it's certainly not beyond the realms of possibility, because we know they're struggling. Mansfield play reasonably well most of the season away. So, things are looking good, especially after the confidence. Just a shame that we've got that rest. It'd have been nice to get back straight on the hot, even tonight. It'd have been nice for a match tonight, I think, to carry on the momentum, but not to be. So, like I say, we get probably a few injured players back. Maybe Marius might be close. I don't know how bad Marius was. So, it's there's light at the end of the tunnel anyway.
I imagine, Clive, that Nigel Clough would have been absolutely itching at full time to play somebody the next day. I think he'll be very frustrated now that we've got an enforced break because of Leyton Orient's international call-ups, which is kind of ironic. Richie Wellens on Twitter. We'll come back to that in a little bit, but I imagine Clough was itching for a game.
I think, like me, he'll have mixed views about the thing. I mean, to a certain extent, you want to get, when you've just got a good result, you want to go straight into another game. But we are a team that's stretched in terms of resource at the moment, and a bit of recovery time is incredibly valuable. And maybe 1 or 2 legs might come back. I don't know, but I don't think it's a bad idea to have a bit of a break. It's frustrating as a fan because I want to see football every week, but there you go. By the way, I don't necessarily agree with everybody about Evans playing at wing back. I think it's a good idea for him to play at wing back. In fact, he played wing back for Newport, didn't he? And I think Clough might try and use him there again, possibly under different circumstances. He's not been particularly effective as a striker without Gregory, has he? That's the problem.
No.
And his touch isn't particularly good. That's the other thing.
I just fear for us a little bit defensively with it, Cam. I can see the benefits of him being out there, like we say, natural left footer. Like Clive says, he's played there before for Newport and has done relatively well there before he was converted to more of an out-and-out striker. But for me, it's just the defensive side of things, with frail as it is. So I think if we are going to utilise him there, it needs to be in dribs and drabs with the right suitable cover in behind him, a.k.a. a McLaughlin, who, by the way, every time he plays left side centre half, impresses me more and more and more.
This is McLaughlin 2.2.1, isn't it? We're now seeing completely different player. Sorry, Alan.
All right.
It was Cam, but go on.
Sorry, Cam. Sorry, everybody.
Sorry.
Like we say, we've very much, even in the games that we have lost or not won in the last God knows how long, we've started to see the Macca of old, and that first goal just had the defender on absolute toast. Just jinking and turning and getting a cross in. And we have done a lot of that in the last few games, and it's not felt right. So for it to finally go right on Saturday is fantastic, and hopefully that gives Macca the confidence to just keep doing it. I think we've sometimes been a little bit guilty of sort of like just trying to get it into the box, being rebuffed at the first attempt, and then just not attempting it again, just resorting to just lumping it into the box, which when we've not got much of an aerial presence in the team at all, you think the aerial presence that we started that game with on Saturday was Bailey Cargill. That is it. It's very much not the situation to just be lumping balls into the box, and we've been very guilty of doing that. And I think to an extent we were guilty of that on Saturday when their substitute keeper came on. I don't think we adapted our game very well. I think getting balls into the box, I think it was too close to him and he was going to claim absolutely everything. So I think that was a little bit frustrating to watch from the sidelines. But when we got the ball into the box on the floor, completely different game, because it was absolute pinball. And it was only a matter of time before one of those chances came off from a Macca pass or hypothetically an Elliot Hewitt cross. He does the exact same thing on the other side when he's fit. But you can see that the confidence has always been there. We've just not been able to finish it off. And Saturday we did. And like you said, granted, Evans is not a left wing back or by any stretch. He's very much better up front, but he is noticeably a worse player without a strike partner. So it's like that Barry situation again. It's like, where do you put him? We know that he can play there, but we know that because Evans has played up there for such a long time, he is a striker. Whereas now we're seeing the opposite with Barry. It's weird seeing Barry going up front, even though he is a striker, because he's played defence so long. I think Clough mentioned that in an interview recently.
Yeah.
Like, you just change your aspect of a player.
Yeah, it's very difficult. It's very different when you play different positions on a rotation, but hopefully that's still sort of embedded in Evans's DNA as well. Right, keep your comments coming in. Have your say on your team. We're going to go back to that talking point about Bristol Rovers and the little mini break that we've got coming up. But speaking of mini breaks, we're going to take one as well, and it's going to be 59 seconds long, guaranteed. You're back with the show for the fans, by the fans. What's happened to my camera there?
Hello?
Properly zoomed in, aren't I? What's happened there? What's gone off there?
Jesus.
There we go. That's better. You're back with the show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield always matters. Thanks so much for joining us on this Tuesday night. Keep your comments coming in. Right before the break, we were talking about the importance of the Bristol Rovers game a week on Saturday. Alan, of course, no game this weekend due to the Leyton Orient game being off. Looking at the fixtures as well for this weekend, so another huge weekend for Bristol Rovers. They've got Crawley, who are currently in 22nd place on 30 points. So ideally, we could even afford to let Crawley win that one, Alan, because I think that would really sort of derail Bristol Rovers a little bit more. We need them to be, really rattled and on the ropes by the time we get them. We want to put as much of a points gap now between themselves and ourselves as physically possible at the moment. I'm not even looking at 21st downwards. I know Andy Garner's mentioned it, and Clough's mentioned it in interviews about, the buffer between us and Burton. Let's look at Bristol Rovers just to be on the safe side, shall we?
Yeah, I ain't got a problem with that. But, irrespective of what they do Saturday, Craig, we can still go there and give them a hiding. That we can. Our confidence will be up irrespective of what they do. If we play, like we've said all season, if we play to our strengths, we're a match for anybody. So Bristol Rovers shouldn't prove too much of a problem.
Let's certainly hope not. I think I know we were sort of mentioning it before the break, Clive, as well, about having that little bit of a break. And whilst Clough will have been itching to have a bit of a break, I think he'll also be relieved to have it as well. To go into the last 9 games knowing that you've got to slot at least 2 games in on a Tuesday night, which have yet to be scheduled. It's going to come thick and fast. You need as many bodies available as you can, but also critically, what this break does is it allows us to give the players, I'm going to say, at least 3 to 4 days off, and have 3 to 4 good days doing some shape work, doing whatever little bits of tweaking on the training ground. And we've not had that luxury over the last 2 months.
No, I think what you do with the time that matters, isn't it? I think there's a lot to be said for having for doing something completely different to what you would normally do as part of your training routine, taking them away to a camp or whatever, because you've got the time. Just do something which is more about keeping physical fitness in place and adding a bit of fun and a bit of team bonding at a time when natural energy levels are starting to wane. I just think I'm really surprised they haven't gone over to Portugal for 3 days or something, because there's been that opportunity. And I know Exeter came back from a continental break, turned their season around a little bit, their form round rather. I think there's a case for that, and it's not a huge amount of money when you consider what they would have been spending on travel anyway. But who am I? I know a lot of managers, and Clough Senior used to be one of them. He would just say, go away and don't come back for 5 days. We go and enjoy your family, then come back and give me everything you've got. There's a case for that.
Yeah, there certainly is. We're not going to do podcast predictions because, of course, with no game on Saturday, it's a little bit pointless. We'll try and put them on our social media next week as well. But the link is there if you want to play along. And, of course, you can see the winners of the week as well. Let's, before we move on, have a brief reflection on the Her Game 2 activities and everything, which happened on Saturday. Cam, you were following it around. I was watching you eagle-eyed, hoping to God that you'd trip over, but you didn't. How was it?
Fantastic. And I said this on the podcast last week, and it came true. Again, ever since doing the Her Game 2 stuff, we have not lost a game. So we played Sutton 2 years ago, drew. Played Swindon last year, won. Played Barnsley this year, won. So it's a good omen, clearly. Fantastic. I think it's very difficult to get something like the Her Game 2 stuff up and running, because you need that dedication and the commitment. And the team that Mansfield have got are absolutely brilliant. The passion that they've got for it, and obviously a massive thank you to Mansfield Town Community Trust as well for organising the walking football. That seemed fantastic. I wasn't there yet, but I've heard it was absolutely brilliant. So they've got some bits of content for that. And then the players were happy taking photos and doing that sort of stuff, doing little videos, which was brilliant. And I think it's all around sort of like just growing the image of the club. I think you look at the club's efforts in the past trying to be a family club, and I think this very much feeds into it, that it is a safe space and it is somewhere that young families would want to go. So hopefully it keeps up and we can keep doing it year after year, because it really does have a positive impact on women in football and in sport in general. And it's obviously any money that's raised goes straight back into it, being able to do bigger and better things. Just all in all, just a really fantastic day, and big thank you to Barnsley for being good sports about it as well, allowing us to steal a couple of their staff pre-kick-off as well, which was really good.
Right, before we move on to something a little bit different, let's finish up with this question from Lee. Alan, if you had a choice, would you want to play Peterborough midweek before or after their Wembley visit? I can see pros and cons for each, he says.
Probably before, because they might not be 110% actually on the game. They'd be looking forward to Wembley, making sure they don't get injured. People who, got a chance of playing would want to play, that type of thing. But to be honest, there's pros and cons, like Lee said. It don't really matter, I don't think, but possibly before that'd get my vote.
Clive?
After. There's every chance that the players will come back less energetic than they went.
Yeah. I would probably say after as well, Cam, to be fair. Based on that, they'll be giving 110% at Wembley to try and win a trophy. And then if they do win a trophy, we know what happens after you win a trophy.
Yeah, I can see both sides. I think if we played them before, very much their mindset's going to be on that. They don't want to be 110% putting it in. They don't want to get injured. They might rest a couple of bigger players. But you will look at it the other way. They're just as much in this relegation battle as us, worse. So, as could Wembley become such a welcome distraction? I think if you get that mindset, it's either going to be the week before or the week after, regardless, because I don't think there's enough. The week after that is then the week of Easter weekend, so we can't play then because we'll have played on the Monday. So it'd have to then be the week after, which then is the week before the season finishes. So
and we've got Leighton Orient to fit in as well somewhere.
Well, yeah. So I think someone saw it's like the 8th and the 15th are pretty much the only realistic dates that we've got to fixture both of those in, and then obviously
there's only 2 workable Tuesdays left.
Yeah. Exactly. So, thankfully, they're both home games, which I think is a massive bonus for us.
Huge.
As much as we know Leighton Orient are a good team, and obviously Peterborough are fighting for their lives just as much as we are, having that crowd, and then the crowd that was there on Saturday, we can have that crowd week in, week out till the end of the season. It's fantastic. It's absolutely deafening when the DAVEiour's goal went in.
Hey, and just think about this on the last home game of the season. Is it Exeter, the last one?
Yeah.
We should have the Bishop Street open by then.
We hope.
There's a chance.
Yes, there is also a chance of me signing before the end of the season. Alan, some housekeeping to finish us off with. Of course, you were doing the post-match up in the posh seats on Saturday, where you interviewed Dave and I believe our new signing, Mr. Tumbled Wire. Did you ask the immortal question?
Yes, I did for Dom, but I thought
Sorry, for who?
Dom Tumble.
Thank you.
I did ask him, and it came out like I alluded to in the Stags chat. He'd already got one in his pocket because he'd just had a cup of coffee. I'm just trying to think of the name of the biscuit. It eludes me. What was it, Craig?
Biscoff.
Biscoff, that's right.
Biscoff, yeah. Biscoff.
And somebody said when I did Dave's in the 1861 suite, they shouted afterwards because I didn't ask Dave. He said, "Why didn't you ask him about the biscuit?" I said, "I think I've already done Dave. I think I've already done him." So
next season we need to start making a tracker, don't we, of who we've asked the immortal question for?
Because
we need to go.
A good round of applause. That did it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, but what we need to do as well is we need to play the jingle when it happens. Unfortunately, I don't have it loaded, so I will try and dig that one out because it is an absolute classic and it gets in your head when you do. Speaking of getting in your head, it's time to revisit something which you guys might have thought I'd forgotten about, and Clive definitely hoped I'd forgotten about. I knew he'd disappear at that moment as well. I knew it would do it. I know he's still there. He will come back in a minute. Let's get quizzical. What a feature this was. So let's remind ourselves of what Let's Get Quizzical was. Now, this was launched when we was in the first round of the FA Cup. So that's why this bit probably won't make sense, but I'll read it anyway. So Cup fever is long gone now, and it's time to get quizzical and launch a cup competition all of our own. It's called Let's Get Quizzical, the Battle. Each of our panel will face a series of general knowledge questions against the clock. The highest scoring 3 will automatically go through to the knockouts, whilst the remaining 2 will face a playoff to decide who takes the final place. Then it's a straight-ahead battle to be crowned our winner. The first 9 answers to the question will spell out Mansfield, so what M, what A, etc., followed by everybody's favourite, an anagram. As ever, wrong answers will add 5 seconds to your time, whilst a pass will add 10 seconds. So it's worth the go, even if you don't know. And a reminder of how people have done so far. So Alan scored 5 correct in 2 minutes 19. Cam was just ahead, 6 correct in 2 minutes and 8 seconds. Jim is unfortunately bottom of the table at the moment with 3 correct in 2 minutes and 5 seconds. And Nick is out in front with 7 correct answers in 1 minute and 27 seconds. So in order to qualify, Clive basically needs to go straight through. He needs to finish in the top 3. If he finishes 4th, then it's a playoff between him and Jim, or tonight a substitute Jim, because Jim is not here. Clive, had you forgotten about this game as well as me?
Do you know, I forget about a lot of things. And yes, I had.
I had forgotten about it, and then I remembered about it this morning and thought,
Can't we play What's in Your Sock? I mean, much better game that is.
Well, maybe. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pop Alan and Cam backstage, and we're going to go camera to camera, and we'll see how we get on. So, Clive, you have got, as I say, 10 questions to face. You'll be up against the clock. The clock will start after I've asked the first question. So are you ready to play Let's Get Quizzical, the Battle?
If I must.
Yes, you must. It's in the bed. Right, here we go. What M is a Canadian singer whose hits include Home, Everything and Lost? Start the clock.
Michael Barrymore.
Which A is the name of a common? Which A is the name commonly given to the wife of your uncle?
Aunt.
Which N is the city whose city council is led by Labour's Karen Kilgore?
Newcastle.
Which S is best known for being lead singer and lyricist of Duran Duran?
Sonia.
Which F is a cereal first produced by Kellogg's in the US in 1952?
Frosties.
Which I is a renowned actor from Burnley who's known for portraying Gandalf in the Hobbit films?
Ian McKellen.
Which E is the soap opera that recently celebrated its 40th birthday by blowing up the pub? Which L is a type of sugar candy typically mounted on a stick for sucking or licking?
Lolly.
Which D first appeared in the Beano comics in March
Dandy.
1951?
And
And Elvis Lawn is an anagram of which current stag?
Christy Pym.
Stop the clock. Oh, okay. Well, let's bring Alan and Cam back, shall we, to see how they will have fared. Oh, where are we with that one? Alan, how would you have fared in that one?
Reasonable, I think. I got a few towards the end. There were a couple of sweaty ones, but I wouldn't have done too bad, I don't think.
Cam?
I don't know. Average. I think I'd done average.
Desperate Dan.
Clive, I can tell you that you scored 6 correct answers
Well done, Clive.
in a total time, including penalties, of 1 minute 43, which puts you time-wise second in the table. Nick is the group leader. You will be second. Cam will be third on time. Cam, you did it 6 in 1:48, so Clive beats your time by 3 seconds, which means that, Alan, you're going to have a playoff with Jim, who is not here tonight. So, as Nick is also not here as the group leader, Clive, you're in second place, which means you get to nominate who will be the substitute Jim. Will it be you or will it be Cam to take?
Cam,
okay,
for God's sake.
So Cam, you are going to be the substitute Jim in our game in this playoff. So you're going to play the role of Jim Evans, and you may have noticed an ominous gold envelope behind me throughout the entirety of the show. In here, in this gold envelope, there is a number written down between 1 and 100. I require you both to find a bit of paper or get your phone out or whatever and type a number between 1 and 100 and show it to the screen. And whoever is closest will be going through to the next round. So there is a number between 1 and 100 in this envelope, in this golden envelope. But what is that number? That is how we're going to decide who goes through. Let me know when you've got your numbers. You got your number? Okay. Alan, show your number to the camera, please. 59. Okay. Cam, as Jim.
14. Oh, it's disappeared. Hang on.
No, I saw it.
14.
Do I show one?
You can if you want, to see if you were any closer at 61. I mean, fair play. The correct answer.
Oh,
that was
Cam.
obvious.
Wow.
14.
That was so stupidly obvious.
That's absolutely uncanny.
So Alan, unfortunately, Alan, you are out of the group stage. Yeah, you are out of Let's Get Quizzical. Jim is the playoff winner, thanks to Cam. Well done.
It's a travesty.
It is a travesty. It is. But there you go. Right, we've got no podcast predictions, but we have got this.
Content loading. Selecting game. Game selected. Players stand by. What's in Craig's bucket?
You know how it works by now. You've got 4 questions and 4 questions only each. I can only answer yes, no, or maybe and give you some helpful hints along the way. And you've got to figure out who's in Craig's bucket or what's in Craig's bucket. There's definitely not a person in there. I can guarantee you that. There is an item in the bucket, and the order will be as follows. It will go Clive, Alan, and then Cam. If you want to guess along in the comments, feel free to do so. I asked these 3 not to look, but they probably will anyway. Let's play What's in Craig's Bucket. Clive, you're up first.
Is it smaller than a tennis ball?
Yes, it is. Alan.
Is it Mansfield Town related?
Loosely, yes, it is.
Is this something you would keep in a desk drawer next to your work desk?
You could keep this in your desk drawer next to your work desk. However, I wouldn't commonly say that this item would be found in a desk drawer. Clive, question 2.
Does it require any form of power?
It does not. Alan.
Is it edible?
You probably could eat it, or you could eat a version of it, but I wouldn't advise eating this particular item because it, A, wouldn't taste nice, and B, you'd be in a lot of trouble. Cam.
Is this a cheap item? Is it not expensive?
I would say this qualifies as a cheap item, yes. You can get these relatively cheaply.
That rules out a Ford Puma.
It does run out of 4 Puma, yes.
Ah,
2 questions left each. Make them good.
will it fit in my pocket?
Yes.
Could you wear it?
No.
Is it something you keep things inside?
No. However, this item is kept inside of something. It wouldn't just be left loose. Last question each.
Would I use it routinely on a daily basis?
On a daily basis, I would... That's a yes and a no answer, to be fair, because some people wouldn't use it routinely on a daily basis. Others might be inclined to, especially if you're in a certain setting with a certain group, maybe a pub with a few pints in what wouldn't be known as the tap room, maybe back in the olden days. Knock, knock.
It's not a Bible then.
Alan.
Is it a sporting instrument?
I wouldn't say the conventional sporting instrument, but I would argue that this could be used as some form of sport by virtue of it being part of a game. Cam, last question.
What?
I'm lost.
So if you're lost and you can't go, you would typically knock.
That doesn't help at all.
Might not help
Yeah.
you.
I think
Got
Alan-
it. Got it.
Oh, got past.
Go on.
Past.
No, go on, ask a question. You've got a question, you've got the right to use it.
I don't know. Is
Does
the
does it float, Cam? Just say, does it float?
yeah? Does it float?
I would say it would probably float within the right amount of water, yes. Right. What is in Craig's bucket? And I will give you a bonus point for an accurate description of what this shows. So I will give you an answer. If you said pen lid, for example, I would give you a point. But if you said blue pen lid, which it isn't, I would give you a bonus point for being accurate, if that makes sense. Right.
Yeah.
Cam, what's in Craig's bucket?
I would say like a card, a bank card of some kind.
Alan, what's in Craig's bucket?
A domino, a black domino.
Clive,
But,
go on.
but not double blank. Not double blank.
Okay, do you want to have a guess of what it, if it is a domino, what it would say on it?
Well,
I'm going with a 2 and a 1.
Clive,
666.
I can show you that in Craig's bucket is indeed a solitary domino. And, of course, it shows 2-1, which is, of course, the score on Saturday. And if you were really paying attention, I gave you the answer at the very start of the show. I made a reference at the very start of the show to the word domino, and halfway through the show, my camera malfunctioned.
Yes, it did.
Didn't it?
it zooms all the way in.
The answer was in plain sight all along. It was indeed a domino.
Smart
Well
ass.
done, Alan Wilson. You get a point. You get 2 points. Clive gets a point. Cam, you get absolutely nothing, to be fair, but there you go. Right, that is almost all we've got time for tonight. A slightly shorter one than usual. There's not a lot to talk about. We won a game. Isn't it wonderful what happens? You know, when you win a game,
Yeah.
significantly less to talk about and talk.
Can
to
I
moan
ask a question before we go?
You can.
It relates to players possibly coming back to fitness in the enforced break. Didn't we have a loanee from Tottenham?
We did have a loanee from Tottenham,
Yeah.
yes.
Matthew somebody or other.
Matthew Craig.
Yeah, is he still alive? Is he likely
Is
to
he
come
still
back?
alive?
I mean,
Genuine question.
could he come back as a result of having him a little bit longer to work on his fitness? I don't know.
Yeah, it could be very close because it was a hamstring, weren't it? It could be close.
And Gregory's on a return glide path, isn't he?
Well,
It reckons that he's aiming for the last game of the
Yeah.
season, but I think he's been quietly optimistic, but we'll see. Even if we can get half an hour out of him or 10 minutes, that 10 minutes might be the difference between us staying up and going down. You never know. Every little helps, to coin a well-known supermarket phrase at this stage of the season. So there you go.
I've got one other comment I want to make, Craig, if you don't mind.
Of course.
Reflective of the game we won 2-1 and of the second goal, really. I think give some praise to Lucas Akins here, because he assisted the goal. He had a choice to make when that ball came across to him, and his natural temptation, I think, would have been to shoot. And actually he didn't. He played it back into the danger zone where Dave finished it off. And I think, given what's in his world at the moment, he's an absolute pro. And I thought that was evidence that he'd worked his socks off throughout the game, and he made a good decision right at the end of the game.
Yeah, and do you know what? For that, I might even rescind your yellow card from earlier on.
Thank you.
You're absolutely welcome. Right, that is almost all we've got time for. Usually we would end on a little bit of a chat about, what we're going to get up to at the weekend, or, like what our thoughts are on the game. But there is no game. So, Clive, I know you're, eagerly awaiting your takeaway to be delivered, hence why I've cut it a little bit short. What's going to be on the agenda for the weekend for you with no game?
Depending whether at home or not, I might go and see either Clipston or Ollerton, I think.
Also, still a little bit of football on the way. Alan Wilson, what's on the agenda for you?
Sunday, probably the games master at my granddaughter's 3rd birthday party.
Oh, okay. What are we going to play? What's in Alan's bucket?
No, we'll definitely be playing bingo, because Betty loves it. So have a game of bingo.
Can't go wrong with a little bit of bingo. Cam, what about you? Oh, absolutely nobody cares, and that's a red card off the podcast. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye, Cameron. I just needed to use the red card photo, to be fair. My thanks to the entirety of the Mansfield Matters podcast panel this evening, which did include him, who made a speedy recovery. To Alan Wilson, to Clive Parkin, and to you guys at home for watching and for listening. We will see you again on a podcast, not next week, but the week after that. Of course, it was Dave that was the saviour or the DAVEiour. Now he's got a week to put his feet up and guide us through the final 9 games. Can the Stags stay up? Will their dominoes align? Can they get over the line and secure League One safety? Make sure you follow us on all things social media. We'll be back after the Bristol Rovers game. And don't forget to get involved with podcast predictions as well. We'll pop the link on way before then. Have a fantastic free weekend. And we'll see you again soon, when we revel in more glory, hopefully, and more moments from King Dave. Good night.